Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio.
Welcome to Hero Entrepreneurs with Dino Herbert, where we're showcasing entrepreneurs who are fighting the battle against seen and unseen economic forces, waging war against fear, uncertainty, and mediocrity. These entrepreneurs come from every walk of life. Some of them are young, some of them are old, some have college degrees, others only have high school diplomas, but all of them are successful. All of them are passionate about what they do. All of them can be considered heroes. Talktainmentradio.com, the world's greatest radio. You've tuned into Hero Entrepreneurs with Dino Herbert, and this is radio the way it should be heard. I'm the business jump master, encouraging you to boldly take the leap into entrepreneurship. You know, we designed this program to introduce you to hero entrepreneurs in many different industries and many different stages of growth, so that if you're standing on the edge of that plane, getting ready to take the leap into that first new business, or you're already on the verge of dominating your market, we want to provide you with motivation and representation and education so that you can grow and succeed as an entrepreneur. And today we're going to be talking about stage one of the entrepreneurial leap, the learning stage. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, unemployment is somewhere around 8.5%. That's about 12.7 million people. Everybody's asking, where are the jobs? One way to get a job is to create a job. But learning how to do that has to start early. So today we're going to be discussing putting entrepreneurship in every classroom. Today's hero entrepreneur is Anthony Delmedico, CEO and manufacturer of the Little Green Money Machine, an award-winning interactive learning system that teaches children how to start their own business using creativity and determination. He's also the founder of Del Visionaires, a community movement which has a goal to steer more people toward entrepreneurship and to help people become more self-reliant, self-confident, and financially independent. He's been in the top 10 of Entrepreneur Magazine's Emerging Entrepreneur Award back in 2011. He's also the owner of Abelard Construction, a $25 million residential and commercial restoration company operating in 17 U.S. states. He's an Army veteran. He served in Desert Storm. He's on a quest to have the U.S. Congress and President pass a law mandating entrepreneurship education as part of the curriculum in grades 4 through 12. His creed is this: fight the global recession, raise entrepreneur. He's calling in somewhere in San Diego, California, I believe. Welcome to the show, Anthony.
Good afternoon.
How you doing, sir?
I'm in San Diego, actually preparing for a feature at a parenting and educator conference on the same subject that you're talking about right now.
Excellent. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to come and talk to my guests about entrepreneurship and the passion that you have. Before we get into putting entrepreneurship in every classroom and what you did with the Little Green Money Machine, I'd like to talk about you and how you got to be where you are today. You're a man after my own heart. You're singing the same song that I am. You're my kind of guy. I understand that from a very young age, you were thinking about being a business owner. And I think you started your first business sometime around the age of 9 or 10. Tell me about why you think you wanted to be an entrepreneur at such a young age.
Yeah, when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, I started several different kid businesses to earn money, make money, have fun with my friends. Back then we didn't have a lot of money. That was one of my motivators, but also just having fun with my friends in the neighborhood. And as I got older, I get high school age, I realized I always wondered why they didn't teach entrepreneurship in school. Even while I was in high school, I joined Junior Achievement, which is an after-school program. But I was always wondering while I was in Junior Achievement, why they didn't have class in school that taught kids the basic tenets of entrepreneurship and financial literacy. And then as I went through, I went to the military right after college, served overseas for 3 years, got the Army College Fund, came back, got my MBA from one of the top 25 business schools. And even as I was in an MBA program, which is supposed to be about business, and it is, they had very few courses in the top 25 rated MBA program that actually taught entrepreneurship, which is one of the foundations of our country. 75% of all jobs come from entrepreneurs, not large corporations. So it just didn't make sense to me back then, and to this day, why our education system, both in K through 12 and in colleges, doesn't offer more entrepreneurial classes, since this is one of the driving forces of our economy, driving forces of new jobs.
Right. And as a young lad, you said you started some kid businesses. What sort of kid businesses did you start?
I probably did just about any kid business you could to earn money, and I sold pencils and pens and tablets at school. I brought candy to school and sold it. I did the lemonade stand on the corners, neighborhood car washes, mowed lawns, cleaned out basements. A lot of times I got my friends involved in doing it, make cleaning out somebody's basement a little funner if you had your friends doing it. So I was actually employing or motivating my friends to do these little kid businesses when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. And then, once you get that taste in your mouth as a young kid of entrepreneurship, making money, recruiting your friends, having fun, it's hard to get that flavor out of your mouth.
Right.
At your age.
Right. Where do you think that came from? I mean, because, quite frankly, I've seen some 10, 11-year-olds running around my neighborhood. Not all of them are thinking along that line in terms of making money. They're focused on having fun, but they're not necessarily thinking about making money.
I think that's a good question. I think if you, I just recently did a study on the top 10, 15 billionaires, not the ones that came from inherited wealth, but the ones that started from zero, from scratch, that
right.
came from little or nothing. And you'll find a similar background in each of those cases. They started businesses, they're working with their young, and it was out of a desire, almost a need for money, was one of the motivators. And the other one was ego. They were doing something because they wanted to be different or amongst their peers or friends, or attract their friends to join them in some kind of cause. And so it's either out of ego or the wanting of your peers to join you in some activity, or it's out of a sheer desire for money. And for me, my family didn't have a lot of money growing up, so I was always looking for things, to earn money. I was like the last kid on the neighborhood that got the Atari. When the Atari first came out and the
right.
VCRs.
Right.
We were the last one to get that. So I was always motivated by money to catch up with some of my friends. That was one of my motivators.
Excellent. And so were you an oddity at that young age? I mean, because we were talking about, you want to focus on, the younger kids and getting them started in entrepreneurship. Were you the oddball, or did you suddenly become popular because you had money at that point and you could be the guy to kind of, buy the candy at that point?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. I mean, I felt different. I felt the need to want to make money to buy some of the things I wanted and needed. But I also felt it was a way for me to raise my status, so to say, in the neighborhood. I know that sounds silly, but when you're 8, 9, 10 years old, your neighborhood status is important.
Right, it is.
So to raise my status in the neighborhood and be that kid where the other kids would troop around and follow to a certain cause, that was important for me, even at 8, 9, 10 years old, just as it is now as a CEO.
Excellent. I want to mention Key Facts. Grady Pettigrew talks about law and business for everyday living. Key Facts is heard Thursdays exclusively on Talktainmentradio.com. You also mentioned you were in the military, and that you had a chance to go through the officer candidate school and learn some leadership traits there. Tell me, and I understand you served in Desert Storm, and thank you so much for your service. Tell me what sort of things you learned about leading people as being a second lieutenant in the Army.
Well, I think the biggest thing I got out of the military, especially OCS, I served overseas 3 years as an enlisted soldier. Then I went through OCS and became an officer. Some people think that makes a better officer when you're enlisted first. I don't know either way, but I think one of the things that I took out of both the military and officer school probably was organization and discipline. That's one thing I probably didn't have much of growing up. So I learned organization and discipline, and the organizing of things, logistics, and people. I took that out of the military. That's one thing they really stress in OCS, and motivating and leading others. That inspiring others. As a platoon leader, you're in charge of 25 other soldiers. A lot of those guys were twice my age, and I had to be unique and creative and earning their respect as their leader but also inspiring them. In the military, it's to do battle drills and, and things on the front lines and stuff like that. But you can equate all that to business. It's the same concept of leadership. People follow boldness, action. People follow vision and passion. And, the military equates that with winning wars. In business, we equate that with creating revenues and profits.
Right, exactly.
But leadership's the same nonetheless.
So you're telling me now your employees, you got them doing drill and ceremonies at lunchtime? Is that what you're telling me?
If you ask some of them, they tell you, yeah.
So you made a good transition. Usually every year I interview some hero entrepreneurs who are serving in the military, who have served in the military, who are also business owners. So it's glad to hear that you're one of those ranks. And again, I thank you for your service. And I do think that those who are in the military make good entrepreneurs in that regard. Now, so you say you were at the I believe you said you were at the University of Minnesota, got your MBA there, and I agree with you. MBA programs oftentimes are not necessarily focusing on entrepreneurship. They're more talking about being a manager in a business, not necessarily starting a business. What was it after you got your MBA? I understand you worked for a company. Tell us a little bit about what you were doing there and what kind of pushed you over the edge to say, I'm going to go back and pursue that dream that I had as a young kid.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, for one, while I was at Ecolab, one thing that happened let's back up a little bit. One thing that happened in grad school is the Army College Fund money back then had a limit, and it actually ran out during grad school. So I literally ran out of money for continuing to my grad program. So I had to start a business to stay in college.
Okay.
And at the time, I started a valet company. It was called Twin City Valet. At any given Friday or Saturday night, I probably had 50 or 60 guys parking cars while I was in grad school. That small little business, is actually what kept me in grad school, so I didn't have to quit and go get a job. So that was number one. Now, about the time I finished my MBA degree and graduated, I wanted to experience the corporate world, just out of sheer desire to learn how a large corporation ran. And, that's what I went to school for. So I got a job as a marketing manager at Ecolab, downtown St. Paul, which is a $2.5 billion publicly traded company. And in that position, I was able to, learn the inner workings of a large corporation, the different functions, and from an entrepreneurial mindset. So the whole time I was there 3 years. I'll be honest, when I started there, I planned on starting a career there and finishing my whole life there. But about 3 years, 2.5, 3 years into that corporate job, which I liked. I really liked that job. As a marketing manager, I got to travel over North America, launch products, train salespeople. It was a very good job, coming out of B school. But I could never shake that entrepreneurial feeling I had inside me. I think from those roots way back when I was a young kid, of wanting to do something different, wanting to do something on my own, wanting to leave a footprint in the world, et cetera, et cetera. And, into my third year of corporate America, I just realized that I couldn't be there forever. I had to set out on a different pace. I could never shake that feeling. And so I ended up actually leaving that corporate job which is really strange, start a construction company, which I had no background in. But after a bad experience with a contractor in 1998, 1999, I actually just started a home restoration business in the basement of my house in Minnetonka, Minnesota. And now here 10 years later, that business is now a $25 million company across 10 states, licensed in 17.
Yeah, I mentioned that, and I want to. Later I want to dig a little deeper into Abelard. But you mentioned. Let's talk about how and why you started that. You mentioned that you had an issue with a contractor, and what fascinates me about entrepreneurs and why I could talk to entrepreneurs every single day is because there's always this radar that is up for an opportunity. Here it was, you said you had no experience in construction, but then you had a bad experience with a contractor, and you said, well, I can do it better than him. Tell us about that. Tell us about that experience and what it was that kind of said, okay, I can start a business. I can do just as well as he's doing.
Sure. Well, I had my first house was in Minnetonka, Minnesota, while I was working at Ecolab, and we get a lot of hailstorms there. So I actually had a hailstorm in my area that wreaked havoc on my roof, and sure enough, my insurance company owed to replace the roof per my homeowner's insurance policy. So I hired a contractor to replace the roof. just had a bad experience in terms of how they got the job done, how they finished the job. Getting back to me, all kinds of issues. But what was more interesting to me was this whole process of insurance restoration. Meaning there's these storms that hit. All my neighbors and myself got new roofs from our insurance companies, and there's this huge abundant opportunity for restoration by construction companies. Once a storm, whether it be hurricane, fire, flood, some kind of catastrophe. And I started just monitoring the Weather Channel and different things, and realized, wow, these storms hit all over the country. What a great business opportunity to be in, to be a restoration or construction company, whether it be residential, commercial, just to service this niche of insurance restoration. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, actually, but it's inundated by mom and pops, which typically aren't your most sophisticated companies. And so what I did is started putting together a building block of a company, using my MBA and my entrepreneurial skills. Started in the basement of my house. That was back in 1999, and then the rest of the story is there. Over the last 10 years, me and my business partner opened up in 10 states, and we're licensed in 17. And we're actually right now in discussions with a large private equity group considering doing a merger, which would help us go from $25 million a year to $250 million a year.
Excellent.
In terms of strategic growth.
Excellent. Take a couple minutes, Anthony, talking about idea generation or opportunity recognition. How do you develop that as an entrepreneur, or is this just something that you either have or you don't?
That's a good question. That has to do with your imagination. That's actually something we're born with. The lens you look at the world, what you see when you're walking around every day, it will allow you to see opportunities. You call them windows of opportunity. They're everywhere every day. I look, when I'm driving around every day, I see these 4 lease signs, 4 rent signs, different businesses that are going out of business, and I'm always on I can't even help the radars there, looking at, well, could this business do that? Could this business do this differently? It's just a constant radar. But I think we're all born with that talent, that ability. It has to do with your imagination. I think 80-90% of us are trained out of that natural ability as we grow up. We go through schools, the K through 12 schools, the conformity, the rules. Our parents telling us, no, we can't do this. People saying you can't do that. I think what happens as we get older is we actually lose what we're already born with, which is the power of our imagination, creativity, opportunity recognition, the use of willpower. I think a lot of that's trained out of us. I think it's a natural ability in everybody.
Excellent. So as entrepreneurs, we need to either redevelop that, or we need to make sure we keep that skill, that innate ability sharp, so that we can go on to success.
Yeah, you just got you got to keep an open mind while you're walking around, driving around, looking around. You have to be a sponge. If you're always thinking about something and thinking about where you want to be or what you should be doing or negative things or this or that, you're hardly capable of being a sponge or ingesting all the things that are going around you, at the very moment. I think entrepreneurs are good at being sponges. You might not realize they're being a sponge, but they are.
Excellent. That's good. We're gonna talk a little bit about how we can develop that, because I agree with you. We gotta start young in order to put this into the minds of young people, and we're going to talk about that in terms of developing those goal setting skills and those opportunity recognition skills that can come from being trained in entrepreneurship. I want to talk about the idea and where you came up with that idea of doing the little green money machine after we take a break, how you came about doing that. Where did the idea come from in 10 seconds? And then we'll get back to it.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. I mean, that goes back to the winter of 2009, right after the recession. The construction industry wasn't happening. And I actually had my 5-year-old daughter, in for a visit to Atlanta. And it was her birthday week, and we were shopping, through Toys R Us, Barnes & Nobles, Target, the toy aisles. And she was, my daughter's always been asking me, Daddy, what's an entrepreneur? I tried to explain it to her.
Got to do it in order to experience it and get some skills at it.
Exactly. You can't test out on it. It's not something you can read about, remember some things and then test out. It's something you got to go do.
Now, I thought it was interesting. I was looking at I know that I don't know if it's the book or just the system. You take kids through 4 or 5 different steps in order to start their business. Let's talk about those, because I thought they were pretty good. And even though it's for young people, I thought it was pretty fascinating that you actually walk them through the process of actually starting a business. And you started with, I believe you started with setting goals.
Absolutely, yeah. The number one thing we all have to do as entrepreneurs, or anybody that's trying to accomplish something, is set a goal. So section 1 is goal setting, which there's we try to break it down so a 10-year-old can understand it, but actually even pasting a picture of what their goal is in a little interactive tear sheet that they can tear out. We encourage them in that section to read that goal out loud to themselves every day and every night when they go to bed. That's straight out of Napoleon Hill, by the way, Think and Grow Rich.
Right.
I basically took Napoleon Hill, which is, a couple hundred pages, and condensed it down to 3 pages so a 10-year-old can understand it in terms of setting the goal, not just setting the goal, but visualizing it and actually building in your subconscious that you can accomplish it. That's what section 1 is all about.
Wow. And it's interesting that, even that's for, you said you wrote it for 10-year-olds, that can certainly be applicable to anyone at an older age, because, and I've said it, and I've had many of my guests say that a lot of people, and I think you've said it somewhere about, entrepreneurship is not a black box. It's not a mystery. A lot of times people think it's something mysterious, but if you have a goal and you kind of focus on that and you become obsessed with it, if I can use that word, that will work those creative juices that you were talking about earlier. If you've got that goal in the back of your mind, your subconscious starts to kind of work on that.
Exactly. I mean, you could call that simply imagination and willpower. And it goes back to our 2 natural born abilities and talents as humans. That's what that section's all about. You set a goal and then you use your willpower to accomplish it. Execution is the mother of all skill. A lot of people have great ideas, but they don't actually execute the tasks required to accomplish them. And so not only is it about setting the idea of the goal, but actually setting a plan in action, a simple plan that they can follow every day, every week, every month in order to accomplish that goal. And that's what section 1's all about. Excellent.
And then you talk about brainstorming business ideas, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You actually give them an opportunity to brainstorm some business ideas. It's not necessarily just something that you like to do. You give them a process to go through. What's that process?
Yeah, I mean, each section is an interactive worksheet or activity. So that particular section 2, which is, looking around your neighborhood, or for them it's looking around their neighborhood or community and seeing what's missing. Is it hot out? Could I sell lemonade? Is it cold out? Could I sell hot cocoa at hockey events? Is there people that have dirty cars in my neighborhood that I go wash? I mean, so it's all about, there's a brainstorming exercise to them to start triggering some of those things that are right in front of them that they could be filling a need for as young entrepreneurs in their neighborhoods and communities. And that is precisely opportunity recognition, brainstorming, market research.
Excellent. I mean, and oftentimes you wouldn't think that a 10-year-old would be thinking of along those lines. But I thought it was interesting that you put that in the book so that these young entrepreneurs are actually going through the full process of running and starting a business. Then you talk about finding a business name.
Yeah, branding a name, picking a name for your business. That's another interactive worksheet in section 3. Personally, I believe one of my motivators as an entrepreneur, one of the first things I do when I have an idea is I brand it and I name it. And I actually even spend some money on a logo, even before the company's even, that's the first step I do, because once I can brand it and name it, I now can associate myself with a visual of what my goal or my idea is, and that motivates me. And that always has for me is, once you come up with a name, and we did some focus group studies with kids, when this thing started back in 2009, kids, when they can feel ownership over something, Susie's lemonade stand rather than just a lemonade stand, or Tom's neighborhood car wash, and they can pick out the little colors for their banners, and they can brand it and name it, they become motivated by it. They take ownership, just like us regular entrepreneurs do when we're older. I mean, when we name something and create a logo and put some time into the name, we feel ownership. That's like a family to us. It's an extension of ourselves. A 10-year-old's no different.
That's good, and I agree with you there. I think that branding is something that it's got to be all the way through the business. It's not just the logo. It's not just the colors. It's something that inspires you, like you talked about, and it kind of motivates you to keep going, and it affects everything you do. It's not just your card. It's not just your stationery. It's not just the banner at the top of your website. It's got to be, it affects who your customers are. It affects the way you dress. It affects the car you drive. In my opinion, it has to go all the way through. And starting at the very beginning helps you to kind of get that ball rolling, so that strategically you're going down the road that you intend to go down. So I think that was very important in terms of doing that. Now, how do the kids, you talk about designing the logo and designing the stand, the booth or the stand that you create, this little green money machine, talk about the physical characteristic of that. How big is this thing?
Okay, well, it's got an adjustable height for the banner. So if you're a 6 or 7, 8-year-old kid, you can lower the height of the banner in the top. It goes up to, I think, 5.5 feet. The banners are dry erase magnetic banners. So they literally, when they go online, if they were to name their own company, they actually go online and write in what they want their company name to be. They pick from one to different, I think 20 different colorful templates. And we actually ship that stand out then with their banners, which are printed out by a marketing company, so that they can self-design their stand. Now, if they wanted to, let's say, change their name next month, or that business didn't work out, they could simply reorder some new banners with a new name, or they could just take those magnetic banners off and they could use dry erase markers, colors, paint, to actually design a new name or change the name of their company or change their promotion. They don't even need to use the magnetic banners. That's just one option if they want to, if they're real high speed. A lot of kids just order the stand by itself and use dry erase colors and paint and actually design their own stand that way.